Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger, up next on the GM. Could Lamar Jackson and the Ravens be headed towards a divorce? Let's talk. I asked this question not for clickbait, because you guys know if you've been hanging with me for a while, I don't do clickbait. I asked this question because I think it's a real possibility. You see, as a clinician for over 26 years now, I have learned to kind of listen to what people say, but also hear what they don't say. I've learned to watch body language because sometimes it speaks louder than what the mouth is actually saying. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been listening to Lamar Jackson both via social media, live press conference, and his body language. And it's speaking a message that nobody is really talking about. Lamar Jackson's body language from this past press conference speaks to someone who's fed up, someone who's tired, someone who's frustrated, and someone who could be contemplating a separation. Now, how that separation happens, I'm not sure, but in a real divorce, the day that a couple decides to say it's over or call it quits, that's not the day that the divorce began to happen. It happens in the mind and in your thinking and in your feelings way, way before it actually is made public and before it's actually carried out. And this goes back, I believe, to the 2023 off season. So it takes us back a little over a year where Lamar Jackson was waiting on his contract. And if you guys remember, it was that off season that I said that Lamar Jackson uh, may just would rather be traded. And then about 2 weeks later, on March 27th, that's when the news broke that he had absolutely went in to talk to EDC and ask for a trade because nothing was happening with the contract. Now we understand at that point with the franchise tag that they weren't going to trade him. But here we are, basically 2 seasons, all of last season and into this season, and I'm still seeing some very similar body language. I'm still hearing some different tone in his voice, and it just seems like this man is frustrated. Well, what is he frustrated with, Belanger? I think he's frustrated with everything. We heard him say last year um, that he wanted the Baltimore Ravens to go get him both Odell Beckham Jr. and D Hop. And the Ravens only came through with Odell Beckham, and we saw the inadequacies of that wide receiver group. We saw him this offseason say, you know what? I don't want to do it by myself anymore. I want these guys to help me. And that was in response to how he was getting on his players. And then Ronnie Stanley was like, man, don't get on them so much, and so on and so forth. I think that's part of the problem. I think that John Harbaugh mystique, that John Harbaugh mindset, that John Harbaugh perspective of everybody's nice and everybody's cool and everybody's calm and collective, I think that has spilled over into the players. And sometimes, man, you have to really give it to your teammates in order to let them know how serious you are. I think for a period of time, Lamar Jackson had been kind of calm, cool, and collective. When he was in his press conferences, he was super likable. He's still super likable. Let me say that right now. But he was just kind of just calm, cool, collective. He was just growing up in the league and kind of just enjoying some of the successes. But as he has gotten into his seventh season, Lamar Jackson recognized something that I also recognize, that this team is not closer to a Super Bowl. They may be further away. And I think a part of that is because of the mentality that is on this team, right? There ain't no real what they would call dogs on this team, right? There ain't nobody who really has that ability to just change the game because they chose to take it over other than himself. We saw on Sunday that unless Lamar Jackson made the play to put this game away, nobody else could make it, right? We saw last week the defense had a 2nd and 20. And instead of being able to be in the right place, right time, and knock the ball away, they gave up the 26-yard completion and put themselves in position to lose the game versus put themselves in position to win the game. And so I think Lamar Jackson is tired of it. He's tired of the coach speak. He's tired of Todd Monken's inability to call a complete game. He's tired of the defense not really showing up and coming up with plays when they need it. Right? When you put up 28 points, that's enough points for the defense to hold a lead. But we haven't been able to do that. When you're up 10 in the second half, that that's a good enough lead for the defense to be able to step up. But what's happening is Lamar Jackson is feeling the burden of the do it all, right? He's having to do it all. He's having to be the leading rusher, which Derrick Henry just passed him this week with that 150-yard performance. But he's having to be the number one rusher and the passer, and he has to be flawless, right? It's amazing that as a fan base, and I'm talking about the Ravens fan base. I'm not even talking about big sports media. We as a fan base, I'm not included, but I am a part of the fan base. We as a fan base, many people called for the Baltimore Ravens to move on from Lamar Jackson a couple of seasons ago when they were trying to figure out what to pay him. Lamar Jackson was considered not to be a team guy. Lamar Jackson was being considered to be selfish because he wanted his money, right? After the playoff exit, people were saying Lamar Jackson wasn't worth the money. They should move on from him. And so not only do we hear that as fans, but Lamar Jackson hears that. And so not only has the John Harbaugh effect impacted the players, it's impacted the fan base, where a lot of the fan base are what they call company guys. Everything they let come out their mouth is pro company, right? And I think that has caused us to say silly stuff like, well, you move on from Lamar. He wasn't worth the money. And say dumb stuff like, well, if they hadn't paid Lamar, they could have filled out the team. That's dumb. Who else you going to get at quarterback? Have you seen the rookie quarterbacks and their play that have come into the league over the last 2 seasons? Have you seen Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert over the last couple of seasons as they led up to getting paid? Have you seen them play? Have you seen them have any kind of success? You absolutely have not. But their fan bases support their quarterback, but it seems like we're kind of on and off with Lamar Jackson. So I think that's one aspect of it, but I think he's also fed up with the results in games. Let's watch this clip from his press conference, and you pay attention to what he says, and you pay attention to his body language, and then you tell me what you think.
And you guys had a chance to finish.
Just we need to get a first down. Coach, they was making good plays on opposing team defense. Getting short gains here and there. But we was getting positive yards, like I believe like 4 yards first one, 1 yard here with 2 yards here. And it was like we gotta make something happen. And coach caught a good play, threw it to Zay. Zay made a great catch. Because he was calling their time, wasting their time out, and the rest is history.
Well, there's a TV report that you huddled up the guys at the end of the first half and really told them we need to finish. Yeah. Can you just talk about that? What spurred that on? And then obviously you guys finished it there at the end on offense.
Yeah, we got to finish, man. I didn't like how things were going. Like we getting off the field. I believe we shouldn't be putting Tuck on the field around that time. We should have been punching the clock in right there. We up 28-6. The game is not over. We done been in those situations years in the past when we go up and have time, come back and we lose. And we up like 35-14, stuff like that. And I believe we just got to keep doing what we're doing, first half, just keep putting our guys on the pedal, keep the defense guessing. And I believe we won't be in these situations.
Lamar, can you take us through that final play, your run there and what you saw in that? I think it was it
was an RPO. It was an RPO. Zay did what he was supposed to do. He carried out the fake well, I believe, to keep the defense on him. And I just had to make a good read, and the whole offensive line did a tremendous job of giving me a lane to get that first down. And we shut the game.
You knew because you had a 2-minute warning. Did you know if you guys had executed that play, the game was going to be over on that?
Yeah, no doubt. It was out of timeouts, and we just had to get that first down. We go through these situations in practice, and for it to come up in the game, we know what we're supposed to do.
Did you hear the Cowboys crowd erupt as Zay was tackled like 10 yards behind you?
Yeah, but I heard Flock Nation in the building too, so I wasn't really worried about the Cowboys fan base at all. Hats off to them though, because they did a good job.
After the 0-2 start, can you sum up how big this win is for you guys in that locker room?
To be honest, Ryan, every game is a big game for us, man, because we're trying to get somewhere. We got to win these games to get to the playoffs, man. Win these playoff games to get to the Super Bowl, but they start with the games that's in front of us. So the 0-2 start, we didn't want that to happen. It's obviously as the football league, everyone's good. We can't look at no opponent and think we can go in there and just roll them over like this. High school or something, or college, we playing walk-on guys. Everyone's a 5-star, I believe, in the NFL. So we just going to games knowing we just got to give it our all, because every time a team plays us, we might see something on film, and it might be different when we play them. They're going to play their heart out against us like it's a Super Bowl. So we just got to go out there and do what we're supposed to do.
Lamar, you interjected Daniel Fatlele's name Were you aware of some of the criticism that he's been getting in the offensive line, and how big was it with what that group was able to do, both from pass protection and run?
Yeah, of course I've seen it. I see a lot of things when they be tweeting and stuff. But that's just social media. But at the end of the day, he's getting paid to do what he's supposed to do, and he busting his behind each and every time. It's not like he's trying to mess up. All of us make mistakes out there on that field, but he came in clutch for us today, and I want the same people who was giving him that doubt to praise him, give him that credit, for what he deserves.
Yep, that looks just like a guy who's fed up with everything and everybody. Right? He spoke to what I've been speaking about is the inconsistencies in coaching, the deficit that he plays with in coaching. Not only does he play with deficits on the offense, he has to play with deficits in the coaching staff as well. Right? Let me give you an example of coaching. Okay, the Buffalo Bills absolutely transformed their team this past offseason, and a lot of people wondered if they would be able to compete this year with losing Stephon Diggs and losing those defensive stalwarts. But they absolutely are not just competing, they're absolutely a contender. You see, what the Buffalo Bills did is they made a decision. Hear what I'm saying? They made a decision as an organization to find a running back who could tote the rock and also catch it. That guy's James Cook. They made a decision not to just throw it all over the field, but to be decisive with how they call plays, to be decisive with when they call runs, right? So now it's a great mix of run and pass. When you watch Joe Brady, I believe that's the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. When you watch him call plays last night, you saw a seamless flow between pass and run. And they absolutely destroyed Jacksonville from the first play to the last play. And you watch the defense feed off of that. The defense didn't get complacent. The defense didn't let down. They played hard all the way through that game. You see, it would have been easy for Trevor Lawrence to hit them up for 350 yards last night after they got down and they only had 3 points through several quarters. He could have just started chunking the ball deep. But that defense didn't let down, and Joe Brady didn't let up on play calling. They didn't get conservative and just start handing off. No, they ran their offense. And see, if Lamar Jackson watched that game last night, I bet he's envious of what Josh Allen has going on, because he's watched the Buffalo Bills support Josh Allen. He's watched them, okay, go get him a number 1 wide receiver. Okay, that didn't work out. The wide receiver run his mouth too much. He's too contentious. Let's get him up out of there. Get some picks. Add to the offensive line. Add a big-bodied receiver in Keon Coleman. Let's play hard-nosed defense, and let's have an identity. He has to be envious of that, because I believe that Lamar Jackson wonders week in and week out who the heck we are. I think he knows who he is, because we absolutely watched him control the Kansas City game from start almost to finish, and we watched him control this game against the Cowboys from start to finish. But when you see the offense become inconsistent, what you're watching is the inconsistency in the play calling. You watch this offense have a flow, and then the play calling gets a little bit sketch, maybe sometimes a lot sketch, and that offense starts to break down and sputter. And I believe that Lamar Jackson is fed up. I believe that if the Baltimore Ravens say, you know what, we got to move on from Lamar, we got to recover some draft picks and some players and build a full team or whatever the conversation would be, I believe Lamar Jackson wouldn't even blink an eye, because at some point you'll start desiring what you see somebody else have going on. That's why divorce has happened. Divorce has happened not just because of infidelity. Divorce has happened because you start admiring what it looks like other people have going on. If I'm Lamar Jackson, yeah, I would admire Josh Allen having a consistent head coach and having a consistent play caller who probably is going to be up for a head coaching job this offseason. Baltimore, keep a lookout for Joe Brady if he becomes available. You know, he has to be envious of a guy like a Brock Purdy, who has an elite play caller, and they're continually trying to build the team around him. He has to be envious of a Pat Mahomes, who has an elite play caller and head coach, and they're consistently trying to give him what he needs to win. Yeah, I would be envious of a guy like a Jordan Love, who has an elite head coach and play caller, and they continue to try to build an offense around him. See, I would be envious of even a Baker Mayfield, who his team decided to keep all the parts that made him successful from the year before, where we see Lamar Jackson lose parts that made him successful. You see, yeah, I would be envious those players. I would be envious of a Dak Prescott, although they kind of fall on their face a lot. But the Dallas Cowboys have continued to make sure they had an offensive line that could help out Dak Prescott, and they've made sure consistently to make sure that Dak had weapons. Yeah, so yeah, I would be envious of those guys, especially when I come back to my team and I'm looking at all that I'm having to do, all of the heavy lifting that I'm having to do. Every play that gets made offensively, I have to make. And then when I don't make a play, when I do have an errant throw, when I do have a misread, now the whole Baltimore Ravens nation comes against me. I'd be tired of that, and I would be envious of those other players. I think that this could spell doom if there's not some major changes coming to the Baltimore Ravens organization. Because when you lose hope in the people who are trying to lead you and trying to support you and trying to encourage you, you'll begin to desire something else. And let me put the whole fan base on notice. We need to stop being so scattered when it comes to Lamar Jackson. We need to have an appreciation for what he's brought to the table. Because all the other quarterbacks, you guys try to rank above him, and all of that blame you try to put on him when a play's not made or whatever, right? You put any other quarterback in his position with the weapons he has had or have not had, and this team is not a winning team and would not have been a winning team over the last 6 years. Because what he can do with the ball in his hand with less than adequate weapons is absolutely above what anybody else could do with the same team, especially when you include the coaching staff and the play calling or lack thereof. We need to learn to appreciate what we have, because there is going to be a day where he may not be here. It's kind of like what the league has done to like a LeBron James. I'm not a LeBron James fan, but I do recognize what he has brought to the game. And there's going to be a league at some point where LeBron James is missing. And then people will realize what he was and what he contributed. I just think that day, recognizing what we had in Lamar Jackson, I think that day could come sooner than later, especially if his body language and his tone continues to look like it looked in this past press conference. I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and I'm out.